me a favor and just pop it in the chat when it's 5 minutes out? And
Of course. Yeah, I'll
I
do
think
that
we
for
all
you.
know I go over.
That's great. All right. So the floor is yours.
All right, so let me get started. And obviously we want to, whoa, hey, Tiger. We huge shout out. A lot of this work is actually part of a curriculum redesign that was funded in part by CDL and the amazing folks at iLab. We have contributions from Joe Favell and his entire graphics team, Aaron and the entire video team, of course, our amazing instructional designers, Joe and Charlotte, and my former student who is still a Knight because now she's in our graduate program, Taylor. There is an entire video series, and I believe the link I shared goes to not only one video of her, but the whole series. So, huge shout out, as always, to my friends at CDL and iLab. All right, so let's start with a poll. In one word, what is your biggest challenge teaching sustainability? Is the code working for everybody? All right, now let me pop over to my poll everywhere. Can you guys see my poll everywhere?
We see your PowerPoint
Oh,
slide deck.
just the PowerPoint?
Yep.
Okay, so let me stop share real quick and share again. Just ignore my emotional support tabs, please.
Yeah, we see it now.
Okay. So again, you want to scan the barcode to put your responses in. All right, so integrating, topic class. Come on, guys. Relevance. Yep. Anybody else before I switch back to my deck, which is hiding in the back? All right, so some of the things we saw are common for a lot of us, right? I don't teach environmental sustainability at all. I'm in psychology and I'm an experimental psychologist at that. So I am a social psychologist. Devon is in
interdisciplinary studies, and I teach, for example, interdisciplinary communication. And I have integrated the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals as the basis for communications because majority of my students are leadership students, and they're
yep.
learning about corporate social responsibility.
Yeah, so I think, we're not teaching things where it naturally dovetails. Like, I think it's easy for somebody who's teaching something in environmental sciences to really, drill down. The project we worked on was really to kind of expand people's ideas about what the UN SDGs are. And yes, clean water, clean energy, these things are all part of it. But one of the biggest is actually quality education, meaning it affects every single course on campus. And it goes beyond that into a lot of other areas as well. So it does dovetail with everything. As a result of this, Devin and I both became OER UN SDG fellows, worked on projects with that, and are still continuing in our mission to help UCF gain a gold stars rating as opposed to our current silver. So, a couple things that we wanted to talk about in terms of kind of teaching, this traditional sustainability is this one size fits all approach, this heavy focus on kind of passive students just sitting there listening to faculty talk, a disconnect. Do students understand that their lived experiences and their cultural contact actually do relate to the SDGs? Or do they perceive this as something that really doesn't affect them beyond the environment? And we are in no means downplaying environmental factors. It's just the UN SDGs go far beyond just environment and into a lot of other things. In the data that we collected, only 29.22% of students, and this is with a sample of about 900, reported moderate familiarity with sustainability after a traditional instruction. Meaning, as a university, or in my case, a lot of my students are transfer students, so this would be at a different part of the SUS. They don't feel that they really got that information. First, let's talk about who we talked to as we worked on our project, as we've refined our project, and as we continue to develop it. So I collected data from about 935 students. This is after the attention checks and things of that nature. 25% are Hispanic. This is not surprising. UCF is a large R1 HSI. So to be designated an HSI, you need a decent percentage of students who identify as Hispanic. 42% identified as minority. This actually maps right onto our incoming class this year. So our incoming freshman class was, I think, 45% minority group members or identified that way. 14.77% first gen, 26% transfer, 45% worked while in school, and a whopping 32% experience food insecurity. And you're wondering how I get there. I actually asked two questions. Like, have you experienced food insecurity, and have you skipped meals because you don't have money for food? And it is surprising how many students say they're not food insecure, but they're skipping meals. And to me, if you're skipping a meal because you can't afford it, you are indeed experiencing food insecurity. And this is something that's pretty common around college campuses in the United States. That number is creeping up, and this too is part of the UN SDGs. That is basic human needs such as food. So what did they tell us? 79% after completing our modules, their definition of what sustainability is actually aligned with the UN's definition. So they don't see this as something crazy or disconnected or too broad or too narrow. 42% of first gen students prioritized economic sustainability over other types of sustainability. Again, this isn't overly surprising because first gen tends to map to socioeconomic status. Students did tell us what they want to see is visual content they can see and share, interactive experiences that they can participate in, and peer created content that reflects their voice. So the gap here is students understand concepts, but they need to engage with it, and they need culturally relevant ways to apply that information.
And I think we have some similar feedback from faculty that we've talked to as we've presented at various conferences and things. And faculty are looking for sort of a plug and play type of approach to this. What can I add to my course and have my instructional designers help me, implement that will make it easier? Because we already have a lot on our plates. How can we get this information and incorporate it in a way that appeals to the students and makes our lives a little bit easier?
And we'll talk about this in terms of, because I get, we're really lucky here at UCF where we have a amazing team of instructional designers. We've got video, we've got graphics, we've got all these things we can utilize to kind of increase these experiences for students. And we get that other schools may not have that you may not have quite those same resources. So we'll work with you today, hopefully, on brainstorming ways to do it if you're at a school where you lack that level of support that we're lucky enough to have. Because I do get it. This is, my sixth or seventh TOPkit. So I get we've got people at schools where there may be one ID for the whole campus. So let's dig in. Do you want to talk about our four kind of tents, if you will, going with our carnival theme?
Sure. We started with the press books, which we have a link to. It's now public. It's years in the making, I have to say. We thought we could do it in a year, then we thought we could do it in two. It's done though after a couple of years more. Yay. Second tent is student graphics, and that's something that really Martha spearheaded and has had her students add to through yellow dig discussions and other things, which is really cool to see what they come up with. And then having the instructional designers help implement that and bring it to life. Material widgets, which Martha has also worked on with Charlotte. Just really great materia widgets that, again, plug and play. They appeal to the students and they make it easier for faculty because this is an OER. So you can grab whatever you want and import it into your course. And then, of course, yellow dig. So that's the fourth. Pressbooks, really, I can't think of any reason why not to use Pressbooks. It's free. We have a ton of content. There's 17 SDGs. We have a chapter for each of the Sustainable Development Goals. We have discussion prompts. We have extra resources. These are things that if you are an ID and you're working with faculty who are teaching physics, for example, and you think, well, I'd like to help them pull some information in so that we can have another course that checks the box. Do you incorporate sustainability in your curriculum? We have assignments in there for all of the disciplines, and they map out to the different chapters and discussions. So it's all there. And while faculty are hopefully becoming aware of it, as the more instructional designers that know about it, the better that they can, support this. The students become co-authors in that they're writing based on their own lived experience as they respond to the prompts. And I think that's really interesting. I have one assignment that they have to look at SDG 16, which is strong institutions, peace, justice, and strong institutions. And they talk about their own lived experience in terms of how safe do you feel on campus or on your community, in your community. And they have to interview either someone on campus or a community leader and suggest how they could approach making it more safe, why it isn't safe, what kinds of leadership approaches would they take to that. And really just incorporating a very important element of the UN's SDG effort into their actual life experience and how they're going to do that.
Yep. And again, we have the link for you. But again, this is some low-hanging fruit for anyone in the SUS, whether you're admin, faculty, instructional design. This is something, you can easily plug into courses because Pressbooks are free. So it is a large OER thing that is something we are all into, particularly in the state of Florida. I'm not saying you need to use it as a textbook, but it's a great resource. And I want to throw in every single SDG has a video from our Emmy Award winning video team at CDL. So they're really, really cool. And again, I think my student Taylor did a fantastic job, and students really responded well to peer-to-peer kind of discussions rather than faculty talking at them.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go to the next one, graphics. So going into this, I always am Joe and I have a graphics presentation later with Joe from graphics, and we'll talk more about this, but I always get student feedback about what kinds of things they think would make really cool themes or designs within their classes. So I actually put this in Yellow Dig, which fortunately for us at UCF has been free for our online and blended students. So I have been able to use it prolifically over the past several years and hope to continue with it. But I had a student in Yellow Dig actually sketch the night you see on your left and upload it into Yellow Dig, which was really cool. And I dug it. So I took it to Joe Favell in graphics, and he did a UCF version of Nitro with the sword, like Excalibur, and all of the vines going up. They also chose a Wall-E theme, hence the Wall-E on our opening slide, because this is a generation that grew up watching Wall-E. So to them, that was something that really resonated with them about what does sustainability look like. Started with Wall-E when they were, 2, 3 years old, and it's just kind of gone from there. Overall, 67% argued that they show higher engagement when they create their own content. And a lot of them feel like they've learned the material better by having these kinds of discussions, even in an informal platform like Yellow Dig. The video gallery, we don't have time to watch it. I would strongly encourage you, go ahead, scan the barcode. It'll open Vimeo on your phone if you don't plan on downloading the press books. And it takes you right to one of my favorites, which is our person on the street. So it's Taylor, our ambassador, wandering around campus talking to people about what sustainability means to them. And what you're going to see is a lot of reduce, reuse, recycle. And what we want to do, our goal is to take it beyond that, for them to realize that this affects business. If you're a business major, you need to understand the SDGs as well, because this is a cohort that's choosing where they want to work, who they want to work for, based on things like, is this a company that prides themselves on being green? Do they care about these things? So this has bigger reach than just our university. Third, the Materia widgets. So Materia is a plugin. Ephraim and Joe, do you know that's like free to anybody at any university, right? Do we
If
know?
I'm correct, Joe, I think,
Yeah,
yeah, right? Yeah.
it
Yeah.
is. They're developed in house, so we have our own instance of Materia, but our tech rangers share it on GitHub, so anybody else that wants to use Materia can get it that way through their IT department.
Yep. So if you have your IT reach out through TOPkit, we are happy to share. UCF has a long tradition of us sharing kind of things we've developed in-house as resources for other schools. Again, at the end of the day, we all want what's best for students. And this is a fun kind of widget. I use it for low stakes assignments, and we used it throughout the modules that we, developed, because again, students want to interact in different ways. So we have crosswords, flashcards, matching games, interactive scenarios. 45% argued or claimed that this increased their concept retention, and we had 90% complete their Materia widgets, which is pretty cool. So again, if you are interested in Materia, you want to see how they work, you want to see kind of what faculty have done with them over time, and you want the code, feel free to reach out through TOPkit. And the powers that be will get back to you, because that is not me. I'm low down on the pecking order in that. And then peer-to-peer magic. Do you want to talk about that, Devon?
Yeah, and I just realized it's 2:21 already.
Oh,
Time is flying. Um, So just briefly, those peer-to-peer discussions, really the feedback loops, all of these things are strong points for platforms like Yellow Dig. 89% participation, which is a little bit different than when you have the traditional discussion boards.
All right, I'm going to skip our poll for now because I
Okay,
want to get to stuff.
yeah.
All right. And so let's break down the data by kind of group, if you will. So first gen completed more than non-first gen. Transfer students completed more than non-transfer and non-first gen. Hispanic students rated the highest level of satisfaction, and that is Hispanic, Latino, Latine, Latinx. Like we give them the whole range. Working students also showed a 92% completion rate. And then food insecure students were up 27 over students not rated food secure. And all of these are statistically significant. And again, my sample size was almost 1,000 students. So what this seems to indicate is that co-creation really honors diverse populations and closes some of these equity gaps. So when you are designing, in this case, their modules looking at how sustainability may tie into your course. But I think we can also extrapolate from that this would go to everything, right? And again, this is like universal design. It's one of those things that's going to help every student in the room. And yes, it may help some students more, but it's still choices they're making. All right, so here is the link. And again, Devon, do you want to pop the deck in the chat? We'll email it to folks later, but oh no, that's the stars link. But anyway, you'll have the deck. So one of the things we did was take it a little further. We had Lily, our amazing OER librarian, create a stars repository where students can deposit their work and Creative Commons license it. So this gives them a marketable skill, which since we're both NACE faculty champions is important. It gives them a place to show off work they've done, as well as really relating it back to an SDG. And that is in fact part of the thing, the application. So you'll be able to click the link, go to it. So if your school wants to model something like this, you could easily reach out. I think it took them like an hour and a half to whip it up. So this was not a heavy load for them, and it's a huge payoff for students. I'm going to skim through the assignments and go to lessons learned. No, let's go to this. So the press books, the link is there. By all means, share your innovation. So I don't know if you're aware of this, but TOPkit has a digest. At the end of TOPkit, usually the call goes out. Correct me if I'm wrong from Enjoy as I just talk about things. But you can write up a short TOPkit article. That's an amazing way to kind of share insights from what's worked, what hasn't worked for you. Also, Florida Distance Learning Association. If you're doing research in this area, I have a Frontiers edited article coming up soon. And again, even that's one thing, like a student co-create a resource really changes the dynamic in your classroom. All right, so look at that. I ended early. And then questions, comments.
I just put the deck into the chats if anybody wants to.
Hey, thanks for sharing, Martha, your presentation. I was thinking about the method you use for analyzing, how different aspects impacted different outcomes. And so do you like survey students at the beginning, at the end of the course, and then you kind of use the data to look for those differences? Or how was it? like kind of, you know, how the data was collected. I think that's, I love
Yep.
your findings because you are connecting things that sometimes we don't. I mean, in practice, we understand things work, right? But when you show that data, like, hey, this is really like making some impact on students' learning, and so
Well, my goal, Ephraim, is always not only student learning, but that it also impacts on campus, right? So Joe Fauvel is with us. He will tell you that I started collecting data early for the sole intention to show Tom and be like, here's something with impact. And we need to put more resources into that, not devalue it or take away from that. You know, I think it's important that education be data driven and that we are serving our students, right? So every conference you go to in education, teach the students you have, not the students you want. I'm lucky because I have the students I want, and it just so happens they're here. But I also poll my students a lot. So I recognize that I tend to be right around 70% transfer, 25% first gen, 40% minority group member. They work at least 20 hours a week. They don't want to, I mean, I think we've all opened a web course where all you see is words.
Mhm.
And I'm a reader, I'm an academic, I've been in school my whole life. And I'm like, oh no, I don't have time for that. And I know that seems lazy, but I'm like, chunk it out. Come on, man, give me something
yeah,
to look at. Like, I don't want to read like, it's a web course. Like if I want to read the book, I'll read the book. Like my web course should be fun and it also should reflect me because nobody should open a web course and be like, where's the faculty member in this class? Like I feel very strongly about that. And Joe's nodding his head because he knows that's how I am. Like to me, it's really important that when students enter my web course, even if it's their fourth one, they know like all the things that are going to be in there, all the moving pieces, and that it's not going to be boring. I get a ton of emails week one, and I send them on to Beth and Joe about like, wow, like this has me right from the start. Even if it's some of it's cheesy, and I'll admit some of it's cheesy. Like, where
Mhm.
I'm like, but you know what students like sometimes after cheese.
I know.
Mhm.
Yeah, we have time for another question maybe before we wrap up. Anyone has any other question, comments? Well, otherwise, feel free to reach out to Devon, Martha, for further insight. And again, thank you so much for sharing your work
Yep.
with us. I love that combination of elements, visuals, OER, active learning, and I think what you guys did is amazing, and we look forward to see what the next steps are. Maybe you want to share, some of the future findings with us. That would be amazing.
Yep.
All right, thank you
Sure.
everyone.
And just
So yeah,
again, the quick plug, if you are interested in learning more about material, you can reach out to the TOPkit folks. They will help you. Get in touch with who you need to if you are interested in the librarian piece and the stars. And again, pushing kind of the OER, by all means, reach out. Our library is happy to help your library. Closing note, Ephraim, exactly what you said. And I know you're not in our next session with JoJo and I, but I will tell you that research suggests students not only like a lot of visuals, they like some of them to be tied to the university. Like, it's not just about the visual, like me putting a ton of stuff. They want it to
yeah,
connect. They
exactly.
like Nitro. I mean, who doesn't like Nitro? Like,
Yeah.
know.
All right, thank you
All
so
right,
much,
thanks everyone
Martha.
for
All right,
attending.
see you guys
Thank
in
you.
10 minutes. We'll have a 10 minutes break, so feel free to, take a moment to breathe, have some coffee or I don't know, water, whatever. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, take care.